Well, you mentioned AIP is going to be eliminating a lot of this stuff anyway. So really we're talking about just other terms, other names for diets that have tons of overlap. That's the key thing
Yes.
that's coming out of this is like whether it's animal based, whether it's full carnivore, whether it's autoimmune, there's so many overlapping things that are happening. You're reducing toxins, you're reducing anti-nutrients overall, you're going organic as much as possible. So I think it's important for people not to get caught up on the name or the term of what quote diet you're eating. We just want you to focus on what is going to make you feel the best. And in general, that's going to be organic pastured meats. And like you mentioned, if you're coming as a vegetarian vegan, maybe you can only do a bite of a grass-fed burger at first. Then we uncover you have all these gut infections. Now we fix the gut infections, boost up acid and enzymes. Now you could do a whole grass-fed burger and you feel better than ever compared to your 20 years of being a vegetarian, for example.
100%. Yeah,
Let's
that
go
makes
back
a
to the
lot of sense
sulfur
to me.
though. Those handouts were helpful. Let's go back to sulfur for a minute though. Things that we can do. We know like foods, for example. So like onions, garlic, which these may be FODMAP foods, right? So then we're going to coach you through this if we're working with you, but we want to go higher sulfur. So eggs are going to be good if you tolerate those. If you're on
Yeah.
AIP, obviously you're not doing
So
eggs.
so out of the gate here, like your proteins are going to be excellent for sulfur, right? They're going to be very high in cysteine and a lot of the sulfur-based amino acids. So any of your fish, eggs, if we can do it, darker cut meats are going to be higher, better in a lot of the sulfur amino acids. Some of the vegetables that are going to be more sulfur rich, they also may be higher in FODMAP. So we have to look at that. Collard greens, kale, they may be good, but they may also have some of these extra salicylates in there. So we have to look at the vegetable component and we have to look at the meat component. So the easiest thing out of the gate with sulfur is just meat if we're sensitive, because we're not going to get the anti-nutrients on the meat/protein side. And the key thing is, if we have digestive issues, we really have to lean on enzymes and acids and maybe bile if our stool's floating or it's taking excessive wipes to kind of clean yourself after number two. So we got to look at those things, right? Got to make sure we're breaking everything down out of the gates there. And then outside of that, just making sure motility is good. If you start eating more protein, like start moving in the carnivore side, you may not pass as much stool just because a lot of this is going to be reabsorbed and not necessarily come out via fiber in your stool. So stool kind of motility may drop a little bit, and that may be on the normal side. Anything else you want to highlight here, Evan?
Yeah, well, here's something interesting. The point that we kind of have this convergence of diets, and it really just shows how sick and symptomatic the population is, because AIP used to be good enough, and now people are taking it to what I would consider almost more extreme level, where they're literally just doing meats. And of course, hopefully a lot of those people can do more animal based, which is what I would say my diet is, animal based, but then I have other foods. But man, if everyone is having to go from used to AIP used to clear everybody up, now we got to go carnivore to clear people up. That just goes to show just how sick as a population we really are. It's really quite alarming.
It is, absolutely is. And people need to remember, like, animal products are nutrient dense. And so if we're just relying on muscle meat, that's okay. If you're going more carnivore, try to lean into some bone broth if you can. Try to do a little bit of organ meat or at least some organ meat capsules. And you really got to be careful with getting extra enough magnesium and potassium, because a lot of times those are going to be more in your green vegetables and plant food. So if you're going to be decreasing some of those things, you just got to make sure supplementally you have a good magnesium, potassium support. You're putting a lot of sea salt in your water and or on your meat when you're seasoning it. So you just got to be careful with those electrolyte things, which can be easily missed.